Hello everyone, my name is Hilde and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today I want to take a moment and talk about things that you absolutely need for knitting. This is not a video where I'm going to show you a lot of things that are expensive, because I feel like a lot of people think that knitting is an expensive, can I speak? Of course not. Expensive hobby to get into, and it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't have to be. So I kind of just want to, give various options if you are interested in getting into knitting, or maybe you've just picked up your first yarn and needles and are wondering what else is out there, or you just want to see things I use. Now, big shout out to my bestie Charlotte, because I was talking to her yesterday and I was like, oh, what should I film? And I had a couple of options and she was like, oh, you know what? I'd like to see what you absolutely need for knitting, because I feel there could be good overlap for crochet. I personally don't crochet, but it seems like a really fun idea. And if it's actually valuable for people who crochet as well, then great. That's even better. So yeah, I am currently wearing, I don't know for how long because it's really warm today. I'm currently wearing my latest finished Garter Abyss shawl. It's in my previous video where I owned Finish in February. Now, I will say that actually, I feel like ever since winning at Finish in February, I have had all the technical difficulties because I tried to film yesterday and it was just hopeless. So yeah, but I mean, I will have a full picture up on the screen of this shawl so you can see it properly. And I'll be wearing this for as long as I can. This, I'm not gonna risk overheating because I have a really big, very hot studio light there. And an actual window here, so my lighting is forever a bit rubbish. But we work with what we have. So I'm going to get into it before I waffle even more. And my cat Kiwi just arrived. Come cute. Okay. Kitty cat interlude. Isn't she cute? This is Kiwi-can. Say hi, Kiwi. Say hi to the people watching. She's like, I haven't made a mistake. Sweetie. I'm gonna put her down. Don't know if she's gonna stay. Probably not. Oh, she might. She's on my lap. Kiwi-can, people can only see your tail. Oh no, they can see you. That's the advantage of this camera. Anyway, cats aside. She's on my lap. I don't know how long she's gonna stay. And hopefully she won't jump off full strength claws out. My God. Do your cats do that if you have cats? Anyway, so obviously if you're gonna start knitting, you're gonna need needles. And there's a wide variety of needles, all sorts of needles in different materials, in different sizes. Full disclosure, I'm in the EU, so I'm going to be using the millimeter sizing for needles. Yes, Kiwi, this is a needle. This is one straight needle. Obviously, they come in twos, but, for purpose of showing you them, one will be enough. This is a 7mm needle. This is by Prim. This is aluminium. Yeah, Kiwi is very interested. But yeah, so this is aluminium, and they also come in various woods and plastic. And also different lengths. This is a regular length one, but you also get them a little bit shorter and even shorter and extra long. I have a lot of knitting needles, so if you're interested in a video about my needle journey and just lots of needles in general, just leave a comment and let me know. And we can attempt it, because I suspect that will be chaos. And this is what a project I'm currently working on, and I will show you projects I'm working on towards the end. It's very hard to show you things with a cat on my lap. Oh, she's gone. Sorry, Kiwi. Ja, kom in de zetel zitten. Kom. Ja, moet je die naald hebben? Yeah, I'm sorry. My cat does not speak English. She has demanded the needle. So if you now hear metallic sounds on the ground, that's what's happening. Anyway, so these are interchangeable bamboo needles by KnitPro, or for you North American people, KnitPicks. Same company, different names. And when you look here, you can see the part where you could just screw the needle bit off and put on any other size of needle. This is a 3.75, but I can put any other available size in interchangeable, not even the bamboos, like any of the Knit Pro and some other brands as well, because I hear they're compatible with Leaky. I think I pronounced it correctly, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so they're not just compatible with Knit Pro needles, which is great. And they come on these cords. This is an 80 centimeter orange cord. They come in black as well. This is a regular cord, not a swivel one. But yeah, so you also have fixed circular needles, meaning that they don't interchange. Like when you have, like, say, a 3mm one on a fixed cord, it's a 3mm one on a fixed cord. The cord is always going to be the length you buy it in, because they also have different lengths. So yeah, I personally love the interchangeable ones because, for instance, when I'm knitting a shawl, I can just switch out the cord for a longer cord, and or just say, like, if I want to switch to a different needle when I'm knitting a top or a sweater or whatever that asks for, like, say, the ribbing to be done in a 3mm and the body in a 3.5, I can just switch my needles. Super easy. So yeah, I really like that. These are my preferred needles, and the bamboo ones. I just love the bamboo needles. But that is, again, to each their own, and so many different kinds. The same thing with yarn. You're gonna need yarn, but there's so many yarns. So I would advise, if you can, going to a yarn shop or a place that sells different kinds of yarns and just feel yarns and see what feels the nicest to you. Also, what I like to do is, if I know there's not a lot from the scale left, but still, for the purposes, it works. I like to press it against my face. I don't have to worry. I'm not wearing foundation. So I can just do this, and then neck and face, it will show you how hard it is, like, irritating fairly quickly. So if it's, like, not pleasant in the skin, it's not going to be pleasant when you wear it, in my personal experience. So there's that. Now, these are a given. Everybody knows this. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what yarn to use or what needles to use. That is up to you. What I will say about needles is, it is probably a good thing to check second-hand shops first, because a lot of needles end up, from, like, clearing out houses. We don't really have estate sales in Belgium, but a lot of things end up going to second-hand stores. So you might find needles there, all sorts of needles. Also, if your town has, like, a bulletin board that is accessible to you, you could put on a note saying, like, hey, I want to get into knitting or even crochet, and ask if people contact you, send you an email. I mean, you don't have to give out all your personal information, of course, but send me an email if you have stuff for sale, and then people could reach out to you, or you could look up Facebook on, Marketplace, stuff like that, secondhand sites. You really don't have to go and spend a lot of money. Now, what I will say, if you have a Sostrene Greene near you, there's, like, 2 in Belgium, so that kind of sucks, but there is 1 in Antwerp. But that aside, if you have a Sostrene Greene near you, I personally find that their circular needles are really good. They're super inexpensive. This is a pair of circular needles by Sostrene Greene. They're bamboo. As you can see, they are fixed needles. The cable is stuck there. Normally, fixed needle cables are more like that Knit Pro one I showed you. This is just like a cheap rubbery plastic. It kind of reminds me of that rubber cord that I used to make all sorts of, like, bracelets and keychains. We call them Scooby-Doo, with what is kind of like macrame, I guess, when I was a child with my friends. But yeah, so this is a 4mm. And I have these in different sizes because originally I hadn't purchased a large range of bamboo needles because at that point I didn't have the money for them, but I could afford these guys. So I just knit on these bamboo needles and I was perfectly happy doing so. So yeah, like for hats and stuff, this worked fine. And I've only had, I think, 1 pair come apart, which is sadly my 4.5mm ones, and Sostrene Greene hasn't had the 4.5 ones in forever. So that's the only thing I will say. Like, some of the sizes, it takes ages for them to restock them, but usually if you want like 4s, 5s, 6, 7, 8, so like the more standard ones, they're generally in stock. Same with 3, 3.5. So yeah, these are actually really good. They have straight needles as well, but I have some, but I haven't actually used those, so I can't really attest to them. They do feel very bendy and flexible, so I think you may be risking breakage depending on how much strength you put into your knitting. But yeah, this is what I have to say about needles. Now, my next item, I will say that I find this a necessity. However, a lot of people just use a bit of waste yarn, like leftover yarn. They just tie that in between where they have to place a stitch marker. So it isn't an absolute necessity for you to go and spend money on them. However, I feel, and I see very few people in my, knitting circle, so to speak, also use waste yarn. So it's like 1 or 2 people out of, considering the people I know from local yarn shop and stuff like that, it's out of like maybe 20. So, and then they only do it when they don't have stitch markers with them. So I'm just saying, most people would say that this is a necessity, but again, there are alternative ways that don't involve you spending money. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I have bought stitch markers on Amazon. I have these 2 sets from Amazon. These open up. So sometimes as a crocheter, I believe that this is what you want. But as a knitter, I'm just gonna take one out and show it to you. Something that shows up well. Red maybe. So see this guy? That opens up like a little, kind of like a safety pin almost. Like a little plastic pin. They also come in metal and whatnot. And then the ones I prefer to use, I'm just gonna get a big one out so it shows up properly, is just the circular one. Of course, I've got a pink one. What was I thinking? Try an orange. So yeah, these circular guys, again, different shapes and sizes. And you could also get, let me get my notions box. My notions box is not an actual, notions box. I'm sure those are a thing. But this is just a candy tin from candy I got at Disneyland Paris ages ago. And the candy was rubbish, but the tin is so effective. And where I keep my stitch markers in, like the ones I use the most, other than these circular Amazon ones, is also in a tin that was from something else entirely. This is a steam cream tin, which is like really good skincare and hair care. And it's a Japanese good for a lot of things thing. And I used to get it all the time when we didn't have to pay customs from the UK, but now we do, so I don't buy it anymore. So yeah, this is like, how do you call them? An art, I don't know how to call them. I would say specialty stitch marker, like an art stitch marker. But this is by my friend Eva of Blue Rabbit House. Come on. Crow, get in the frame. This is a crow. I believe her crow is called Amber, but I might be mistaken. And this was a gift from her. Then I have another one of those, like just fun ones. This is like from the 90s series by Nutedern, by my friend Nina. She gifted this to me as well. So stuff like that. Those are just, you can get them in heart shapes. I don't know how well that shows up because I'm holding the heart. Maybe more like this. I'm trying hard, you guys. I may have to just pour out a lot of stitch markers and take a picture. But you get the idea. You get them in various shapes, sizes, and different shapes is actually important because that depends on the size of needles that you're using. Now, if you have like very small needles, you'll need tiny, I nearly said circular, but it depends what you like. Tiny or stitch markers are just handier than big ones. Although I'm sure you could use big ones. I personally just like the round ones, just like tiny circles. Those are the ones I use the most. And I have a tin here. And then I have a tin with spare stitch markers here. Again, this was from a set that I got for free at Yves Rocher, which is like a makeup and skincare brand we have around here and in some other countries in Europe as well. And yeah, it had different little travel sizes in for the holidays. And I just put my spare stitch markers in here. So they're not all cluttering up this little box and make it impossible for me to find things. So yeah, and also like if a friend needs a stitch marker and they're over, I can just be like, take something, it's fine. And I can just like share them with my friends, which is also fun. But yeah, like I said, these sets are from Amazon. I'm not gonna recommend buying off Amazon, but I'm also not gonna judge you if you do. Full disclosure. Because I know like not everybody can afford to go out and buy, say, Knit Pro / Knit Picks ones. They're not expensive, the plastic ones, but yeah, they might just still be out of your price range, because if you don't have a local yarn shop, you also have to pay shipping on these things. So it can amount to a lot of expense really quickly, and Amazon does offer free shipping from, I think, 20 euros. So if you need a few things, you could get to 20 euros and get free shipping, or you can ask like a friend who still has Prime or something like that. Again, not here to recommend Amazon. However, if you don't want to shop on Amazon and you don't have a local yarn shop and you're not knitting in white, because next is important, you can get this. I got this in a box of like 50 of them. It was really inexpensive. And this, you can also get them in metal. I'm not sure what it is called. I will ask my husband when he comes home from work, because he knows. And there goes the lid. But they're basically from the car industry. And they're also basically the same thing as stitch markers. Well, they can be used as stitch markers. It works. And I initially got a little box of them. So they come in a box, so you don't even need a box to store them, because you will have a box. I just put them in my spare ones. These are like travel stitch markers for me, because again, if I lose them, it was like, what, 3 euros for 50? So I'm not going to be upset about it. Now, another thing you, again, can go without. If you know, a lot of people just draw stripes in like little, you know, tag off stripes in a notepad. And that is, again, to each their own. But I find this pretty necessary for me personally, because I'm not good with keeping up with stripes in a notebook. And that is row counters. Row counters also come in various shapes and sizes. I have different ones. These can go over a knitting needle. But I just also like them because sometimes you just don't want a lot of sound, you know? These are my all-time favorite ones. My local yarn shop had them in stock the other day, and I immediately bought an extra one, even though I already had 3 ones. This is like the clover. I think it's supposed to look like a frog, but it's a clickety one. You can lock it so it can't slide by itself. You can hang it on a chain around your neck. You can do this with this as well, I suppose, but I love these. These are my absolute favorite ones. I have seen so many different kinds of stitch markers out there, but these are my favorite ones. And this same system, but not as good, because this is also by Clover. I also have 2 other ones that are in my travel bag, because again, if I lose them, it won't be a big deal. And I got those in a beginner knitter kit from Hema. If you have access to Hema and you can still get that kit, I do recommend it. It's quite good. And it has a lot of things that are necessary. Another thing that is necessary, and you honest to God do not need a fancy box one like I do. This was fairly inexpensive, and the only reason I have this fancy box one is because this is not a regular measuring tape. The regular measuring tape goes up to 150 centimeters. This goes up to 3 meters. My husband is over 2 meters tall. So if I wanted to make anything for him, garment-wise, because I used to make a lot of clothes back in the day, a regular one often just did not do. Also, if you're measuring curtains and stuff, this is just super handy. I have never again seen the 3 meter ones. Now, I've not bothered looking for the meter, like other than when I was at local Veritas. Veritas is, for those not in Belgium, a haberdashery chain. It's not just haberdashery, it's also fashion and accessories. But usually they have at least some notions and knitting needles and yarn. Most of them have a fair amount of yarn. Yeah, the ratio of fashion items versus craft items and sewing items, because they also have some fabric, depends on Veritas to Veritas. Mine used to be really good, and now it's kind of mostly fashion items. But yeah, so I like this because it has inches on one side, centimeters on the other. It's super long, and it lives in its own tiny house, making it very easy for me to keep it with the rest of my notions. However, I also have just a cheap one from wherever, because it's a measuring tape and most places sell them. Yeah, so I also have cheap ones. So it's not like I'm a measuring tape snob. It's just that everything sits so nicely in this tin that I use all the time. So that's why that one lives in here. Then, of course, you need scissors. These are foldable TSA approved ones by... I forgot the name. I will have it up on screen. I'm gonna remember it in like a moment probably, but if not, I will have it up on screen. Fiskar. There we go. And yeah, you can get these. I've seen them. The only place, because I got these off Joanne. My husband got them for me, I think in 2022. There was a moment, a sweet moment in time, also RAP Joanne, that Joanne's would sell globally, that they would ship to Belgium, customs sorted out for you and everything. What is it? Duty delivery paid? Yeah, brilliant time. I got so many good things, and this is one of the things. I've seen them on Amazon afterwards, but obviously I didn't buy them because Amazon. And yeah, these are really good because they fold. Let me see if I can still fold them. As in, I mean, if I remember how to fold them, that's more what I'm looking for. But yeah, these fold up, neat and small, but they're just also really good scissors. So they just live in this box, usually not folded. And then I also have a knitting gauge, and this is an absolute necessity. I'm not gonna tell you to go out and buy expensive scissors or embroidery scissors or whatnot. Buy whatever scissors you want. Literally, it's just to cut yarn. Anything's fine. You don't have to get expensive scissors. These also, by the way, were not actually expensive. But I mean, if you look at a knitting supplies website, right? A yarn shop website like Loop London, they have everything ranging from very affordable. I would say, like, I could be mistaken. I don't know what the cheapest ones are, but I think they're around 6-7 euros, and going up to around nearly 150 euros. Anything sharp enough to cut a thread of yarn will be fine. Trust me, it's fine. You only need like super sharp scissors when you're cutting, say, tassels or maybe pom-poms. I'm not sure, but tassels definitely, you need super sharp scissors for those. But frankly, you could use a sharp knife. So I'm just saying, chances are you can really get by with cheap craft scissors. I'm not even kidding. I mean, at one point I bought some jewelry wire online, and it came with several rolls of the stuff, like the elastic thread, the jewelry thread, and it came with a tiny free scissors, like really wee ones, like this big. And they cut really well, so they live in my travel kit because, again, if I lose them, they were free. And even though these are travel scissors, I have zero trust in security, so there's that. And this is also very cheap. This was like 3.5 euros at my local yarn shop. This is by Tulip, but row counters come in various shapes and sizes. I will show you a couple of other ones. Another thing I should have had with me, but didn't, because I am chaos incarnate. Not really, but I mean, it sounds better than I am scatterbrained. This was my first needle gauge. This is by Sostrene Greene. This was also very cheap. It was less than 4 euros. It was 3 euros something. It also has, yeah, some measuring bits here. I think it's a square in case you're just doing like a square gauge swatch. So, yeah. or just maybe a granny square. It's fun. It's for knitting needles specifically. Don't fall off. Then I have this guy that came in that kit from Hema I was telling you about earlier, that if you can get your hands on it, you should definitely do so. This is practical because if you have like a backboard or someplace you can hang stuff off, you can just hang it up on this and you don't have to put it through like the thickest needle opening. It goes from, let's see, what am I looking at? Millimeter. Is that just up to a 10? Yeah, up to a 10. But the cool thing about this one in particular is that it has the European, so the millimeter, and the US on one side. And on the other side, it has the millimeter and the imperial, which is what the Japanese now still use on the other side. And this is actually the only one I've ever seen. Not that I go out of my way to check every gauge meter in existence, but this is the only one I've ever seen that does it. And it came in like a €4 beginner knitter kit, which my husband got for me, and he literally got it because he thought like there might be something useful in it. And what was in it? I think they were originally €8, but €8 was still a really good bargain. They had some you know, like the little safety pin stitch markers, the ones that open, had some of that. I think like 10 of them maybe. Then it had the gauge watch. Then it had needle point protectors, to be sure. It had a few of those pins you can use to put stitches on hold. They're not a necessity, but it had some of those. And I think it had something else. Oh yeah, it had some cable needles as well. Again, cable needles is... I'm not entirely sure whether cable needles are an actual necessity or not, because I've never in my life knit a cable. So I'm going to leave that one to the comments, because somebody else will know. And then I have this guy. This isn't mine. I got this for my bestie, for Charlotte. She knows she's getting this, so it's not a spoiler. But now, Charlotte, you can behold your elephant. And this in particular is also suitable for crochet hooks, which these guys are less so, because you can't really fit the head through, I believe. At least that's what I've been told. Let's see if it works for knitting needles. Also, 7? Is it 7? Yep. See, you can just slide it through here as well. So it does work. Yeah, and also check this again. This is a 4. Just seeing how easy it is. Yeah, you slide them through because the opening is a little bit tight. So yeah, it does work for knitting needles as well. And it also has a little knife here to cut your thread. So if you have this guy, you already do not need scissors. Also, I've heard of people cutting their thread, especially traveling, with like nail clippers. I was going to say needle clippers. Nail clippers, stuff like that. So again, scissors, don't spend a lot of money on them. Or just get this guy. I don't remember what I paid for it, but it wasn't expensive. It's by Knit Pro. Comes in different colors. I've only seen the lilac elephant just the once. So yeah, I kind of wish I had one, even though I really don't need it. Oh yeah, it says knitting needle and crochet gauge with yarn cutter lilac. Can I speak? No, of course not. And then this is something, honest to God, do not need. Categorically, emphatically. It has a bell. This lives on my rollator walker. If I have my rollator with me, I also have a knitting gauge with me. So if I go on like a city trip or wherever I need to use my rollator walker, I am is it ambivalent? Ambivalent mobility aid user. Usually if I use one, I use a cane. But sometimes I need to use my rollator walker. And for those curious, I have a bi-acre overland. So I can go hiking. Yay. And yeah, I have this. And it has a bell on it. A vintage style bike bell, which I will not make go off because it's very sharp and very loud. And I don't want to do this to people who have sensory issues. So this is not happening, but you know, it's there. And I have rigged it with, clasps and the thing that came with it. So I like it because mostly for that. So yeah, I also like it because I have one of those yarn holders you can attach to your belt. And if I don't attach them with or belt loops with a tankard strap, I will use this guy, which is essentially a tankard strap. So I am forever attaching it with a tankard strap. A tankard strap is a LARP thing. It's literally this guy, but shorter. And you may be wondering why I even have this, because my inner steampunk craves random leather armory things, and I'm weakened without honor. End of story. But yeah, lives on my rollator and super handy. Now, I mean, I can see myself taking a small project when I go hiking and just when you're like sitting somewhere and relaxing and resting for a moment, just knit. But I don't take my knitting to conventions because I'm just running around doing things. So it may be a little bit overkill, but I'm sure one day I shall be incredibly pleased that I have it. Now, the next valuable thing, because I have missed something that I feel is a necessity, but I know that a lot of people can do it with just their knitting needles. My mother-in-law can do it with just her knitting needles, which is amazing, seriously. And it depends on how thick your yarn is and how good your dexterity is, I suppose, your finger dexterity. I've picked up dropped stitches with just my fingers, but 100% do not recommend it. And I've also done it with knitting needles, but I'm not as good as my mother-in-law. But I would 100% recommend having a crochet hook or several, just in case you drop stitches, and to pick them up. There's loads of YouTube tutorials on how to do it. It's actually super easy, not intimidating at all. You don't need a full set of crochet hooks. I don't either. Also, having a really small crochet hook, like a 0.50 or an 0.75, just to fix pulls in your clothing, or just crochet hooks to fix your clothes, is also just super valuable. But I digress, because that's not knitting, but still good to know. It's a good life hack. So I would advise getting one that is the same size of yarn that you mostly use for this. For instance, this is a 4mm. I usually knit with yarns thereabout. I also have a 2.5mm and a 3.5mm and a 5 for bulkier yarns. But as I don't crochet, they don't have to be like fancy and expensive. And this, for instance, is a cheap one from Sostrene Greene, and my other ones are also all cheap ones. I don't have any fancy crochet hooks because, again, I don't crochet, and they're to pick up stitches and to fix like knit clothing basically as well. And then I have a 0.75mm needles, literally for when Kiwi or Theo just like pulls a little bit of thread out of my skirt, and I'm like left with a pull, and then I can just go in and fix it with that tiny crochet hook. And something to hold stitches. There are a lot of patterns that require you to hold stitches, and a lot of knitters will talk about barber cord or the long pins, so to speak. They're like safety pins, but to hold stitches on, stuff like that. I actually have one in my scarf because it's holding. I'm gonna take it out. It's holding my. Oh no, this is not suitable for scarves because then you will have pulls, but it's fixed already. So don't do what I did. Don't put it in your scarf. So yeah, these guys come in various sizes. You've got them really long as well to hold stitches. You don't need these. I'm not joking. You don't need these. You can use waste yarn. Literally, a lot of people do it as well. They just use waste yarn. So you don't need any of these things. And what I like to do, I've showed you them before, these cords. I have many cords, so it's easy for me, but I like to just hold stuff on cords. Use the needle stopper, the cord stoppers. I don't know why they're called needle stoppers or cord stoppers, but I have some here so I can show them. They come with interchangeable circular needles, so you don't actually have to go and buy them. They're these little things. and you can screw them on instead of your needle at the end of your cord, and then nothing will fall off. So that's what I personally like to do. So I haven't purchased anything like barber cord or whatever because I honestly God don't need it, and I'm not going to spend money on something that I won't be using either. What you will need is storage for your project, for your needles, for your things. As you've seen from me, you don't have to spend money on storage. Often things come in tins like that, or these came in their little boxes. And as I said, like when you buy the car industry round ones, which I at this point don't know the name because my husband isn't home yet and I'm still filming. Tin from something else, from skincare. You get a lot of stuff that you can reuse as is. Like if you have eye cream, it'll likely come in a little, I mean, it might come in a tube, but mine comes in a little pot. Lip scrub and lip balm from Lush comes in a little pot. Lots of brands have little pots for all sorts of things. You can just clean them out after use and reuse them for other things. I do it all the time. And it's so practical. You can also use them to put some meds in if you need them. So it's a waste of money to spend a lot on expensive things. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be a hypocrite. I do have expensive yarn bags that I use, but you don't have to. Oh, this is super fun, by the way. This is also a thing you don't need, but I love it, so I have it. It has stitch markers inside. It's an acorn that opens up. But this was on my bag. This also holds some measuring tape, and a cheap one at that. But the little measuring tape baggie came with the bag. But yeah, you can purchase very expensive leather knitting bags, and I use this a lot as my go-to knitting bag. I have a Project 10 as well, which I use all the time, but I also use it for storage downstairs. So I have 2 expensive knitting bags. I also have a second-hand doctor's bag that was given to me for free by my friend's Valentine's dad, who is an actual doctor. Shout out to Valentine's dad. He gave me his old one. So I will not be purchasing the redesigned doctor-style knitting bag because why, you know? But like I said, like you don't have to. You really don't. I mean, you see all these knitting YouTubers and knitters on social media, and they have all these fancy bags, and it's cool. It's cool. I mean, I love my redesigned bags. I'm not gonna lie, but I get as much practicality on the go from my big. I think it's in my previous video. I will have everything in the description anyway, that I still have links for. But the thing is, you get so many cheap, say, makeup bags for free. Like one of the makeup bags that I got for free at Sephora. I know it's pronounced Sephora in English-speaking world, but I live in Belgium. I live next to France, and Sephora is actually French. And there they say Sephora, so I say Sephora. But anyway, that aside, they give away free makeup bags every year. Yves Rocher gives away so many free bags. You don't need to purchase anything, because even if you have interchangeable needles and you want to travel with needles, you can put them inside of a washcloth, roll it up, and put that inside of a free makeup bag, and your needles are perfectly protected. You know, you don't have to have an expensive needle case. You can have an on-the-go yarn bag. You can just use a tote bag, you know? A clean tote bag. That'll do. A large makeup pouch. It'll do. All these things work perfectly well. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It really doesn't. It does not. I cannot emphasize this enough. Of course, if you want to support like a smaller shop or like a small company that makes these things, that's awesome. Always support small shops if you can, and shop local if you can. Obviously, that doesn't even need to be said. But like if I want to purchase another needle case, I will definitely buy one from Eva from Blue Rabbit House, because she has the best ones for my need, and I'll be supporting a friend who makes awesome things. But I'm holding out because I want to see if she does Halloween ones this year. I'm not gonna lie about it. Eva, you know about this, I asked you before. But yeah, so that's that. However, that said, because you can also store your yarn in tote bags and stuff, you know, no reason you can't. However, if you work with natural fibers, especially animal fibers, you do need an airtight storage because of the moth. And the things I'm going to go into now are specific to people who work with natural fibers and animal fibers. And there goes my scarf. I had to close the window because there's children shouting outside. They're playing outside. So, yeah, I didn't want the sound in the background. Yeah, so I use these containers to store actual wool in. So, yeah, as you can see, the moth cannot get in. Also, people advise that when you bring in wool, actual wool, even from a yarn shop and stuff, to freeze it in your freezer for a while. So if there is like moths inside of it or like moth eggs and whatnot, they are dead. I will admit I don't do this either, so I'm also not as diligent as I could be, but I'm still passing on the knowledge. Other thing, and this is not necessarily a actual wool thing, but if you have these hanks, you don't 100% need a Swift and a ball winder. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that explain how to wind these, because you cannot use them like this because they will get tangled up and it will be terrible. So you don't 100% necessarily need a Swift and a ball winder, but I find it very practical to own a Swift and a ball winder. My Swift is a cheap plastic Swift. I will be inserting some clips on like a little tune here. And my ball winders from Hobie. So they're not the most expensive ones, but I'm really happy with them so far. So I have no complaints about those guys. But yeah, so that's just a side note, because again, it is not 100% necessary, but it's very, very practical to have. But definitely if you're going to work with natural fibers and animal fibers, this is what you do absolutely need. This is a necessity to keep moth out. And also, they're airtight. So if moths do come in, if you buy yarn and you put them in these boxes immediately, they will just suffocate and be dead. What you also will need if you have like finished objects and they're in your closet, you need cedar. You know, they're not just balls, because I've seen people who had like these little blocks with a hole in it that they could put over clothes hangers as well. These live in the pocket of a wool coat. So even if you don't knit with animal fibers, but you have a wool coat, super handy to have. I'm definitely going to buy some more because I have more wool coats now. So I definitely want more of these. These I got in the Hobie advent calendar. So I think Hobie sells them, but my local yarn shop does as well. So I'm going to just get them there. So yeah, storage, moth repellent, so to speak, and you can get that in just cedar wood blocks or balls or whatever. Wool doesn't really get dirty very quickly, so that's to your advantage, and a good airing out is usually also like goes a long way, so to speak. But if you do have to wash it, especially non-superwash, you need something with lanolin in it, and I use Eucalan. I get the big bottles. It's fairly pricey, but you can, this goes a long, long, long way. I've had this for ages. So this is the 500 milliliter one. And there's also a smaller bottle. And then there's these little travel-sized one-use ones. This is a grapefruit one, but I've had them in different ones. And I just set them inside with my travel stuff. And I always take a few along, because in case I need to wash any woolens, so I can just do it by hand in a bathtub or whatever, and just hang them up or put them down to dry on a towel or whatever. So yeah, I get these when I order from Nina from Theo. Thank you, Nina. So they're always practical, and I've got different fragrances as well. But when I buy it, I always get the unscented, and I get it at my local yarn shop. And I've mentioned this before, but my local yarn shop is closing. So I'm really sad about that. And I'm also sad about it will be like one of the many things that will be now harder to get is Ökalan. I think I may have to buy it off Hobby because their threshold for free shipping is much lower than a lot of other places. So that might be it, but I will look into that when it comes to it because I've got a spare bottle and I might buy yet another spare bottle just so it'll keep me going for a couple of years still. But yeah, I use this in the washing machine. You don't have to, you can use it when you wash by hand as well. But I use it in the washing machine because my washing machine has a really, really good wool cycle. And why would I do it by hand? If I can just chuck it in a machine and the machine does it for me, you know? It's a really good machine. Nothing shrinks in it. So, well, when washed correctly, obviously. But, so yeah, I wash all my natural fibers in the machine. Depending on cycle, it will depend on the detergent. I will say for linen, this is just what I do to wash linens because where we live, the water is really hard. So what I like to do is we have these little laundry detergent blocks from EcoVet, I believe. They're organic. They're without additives. They're as basic and clean as possible. And I chuck those in with my linens. And then I pour a lot of vinegar. Thankfully, vinegar is very cheap, unlike Ökalan. But yeah, I pour that in where I would usually put the liquid detergent. I just pour a lot of vinegar in that. And then I let my linen dry. Like when it's nearly dry by air, just hang it up or put it down on a towel to dry. And then when it's nearly dry, I put it in my dryer on the cold cycle, not on any warm cycle, on the cold cycle. It doesn't damage the colors and it comes out pretty soft, or at least way softer than otherwise, because if I were to just rinse wash it or put it on like the delicate cycle, I can pretty much set it up straight. It will be so harsh and unpleasant to wear. So I've solved that problem doing that. So I'm just sharing that in case anybody else has that problem or wants to knit with linen, which you can. It's definitely an existing yarn. So I feel like this is probably sound advice for someone out there. So I am sharing it. But yeah, those things are an absolute necessity when it comes to wool, I feel, like animal fibers. And I've heard about the moths getting into plant-based fibers as well. So that's my advice. Storage, moth repellent, and the right kind of laundry products. And you should be fine. Something can always go wrong, but it will, lessen the chances. Because nothing is as horrible as you knitting a beautiful garment or even purchasing a beautiful natural fiber garment and it then shrinking in the wash. So that just sucks so much. Also, when it comes to blocking, don't purchase expensive blocking mats from a brand. I have these, literally if you go on any website, and a lot of toy stores just have them in stock, you can get puzzle mats. It's called puzzle mats. Literally, it's just puzzle pieces, you put them together and you get a big mat. I will have a picture up on screen of a garment that's being blocked on the thing, so you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, it works just fine. I've got like really cheap ones that I got in a big old box. I have literally, when I put them up straight, I have a whole cardboard box full of them, and I can block even ginormous shawls. So if you're gonna purchase anything to block on, that will do. Yoga mats also work really, really well. IKEA has these foldable play mats. That'll do. A cheap second-hand thin mattress, that'll do. Even a thick carpet, which you put a towel over, also does a trick. I mean, so a lot of things work without you having to spend a lot of money to block things. With the blocking pins, you don't need expensive ones because They're called U-pins because they literally form a U. And they have 2 sharp ends that are like, they go a little bit like this. And you can get the small ones for hat making and also for, what's the thing called? Wreaths, you know, with plants and fake flowers and whatnot. You can get them for that kind of purpose. And they're usually a lot shorter than they are for knitting, but they are very cheap. The Knit Pro T-pins are also very affordable, but I'm not super hype about those. I prefer the U-pins myself. And you can get them at like nurseries. I think the UK calls them nurseries, like garden centers, that also have like wreath making sections. You can usually get them there. Very affordable in pretty large quantities. So that would be my advice. You could also get them on Amazon. Don't buy the Knit Pro one, the Clover ones. The old ones were actually okay. The new ones are hot garbage and super expensive. So do not invest in those. Whatever you do, do not make that mistake. I did, and I regret it to this day. The big rainbow ones that are, you could see them in my blocking picture. You can't miss them. The big colored ones. They're okay, but they're also like 25 euros for a box. So yeah, if you need a lot of them because you're going to knit big projects, I would definitely advise the smaller U-pins from garden centers and such, and hat making supplies. Check if you can go to a place like that. If you have a crochet hook, it's not super necessary. Now, because you can use it. You can use a crochet hook to weave in ends, absolutely. However, if you don't have a crochet hook and you need to weave in ends, you need a tapestry needle. Now, tapestry needles come, again, in various shapes and sizes. I have different ones here. These live in my Notions box, but I have more of them. I have tapestry needles. I have like a really, really large one. That lives with my I-cord maker, which is definitely not in this video because that definitely isn't a necessity. But yeah, I have a couple that live with my I-cord maker. I have a couple of plastic ones that live in my travel bag because obviously I'm not gonna travel with aluminium/metal needles because customs will have a fit. I'm sure of that. So as you can see, this has a straight end, a straight tip. These are all very blunt. This is a plastic one. The eyes are usually pretty big, so that is really nice. And also the plastic is fairly flexible. So this is really nice if you have to weave in a large end, you know, with large yarn, I mean. This is one with a bent tip, but also a plastic one. Personally, I prefer the ones, oh, this is also a bent plastic one. I prefer the aluminium ones. The brass one is by Clover, and the purple one is one I got off Hobie. This is actually a finer tip. I don't know how well you can see the difference, but I am trying. I've tried. So yeah, I really like those, the metal ones. And then I have this. This is also from Hobie. As you can see, it has a straight tip, but it has this little loop here. I don't know how well it shows up, but I'm trying. So yeah, these are wool needles, and this is for like really, really thick yarn that would not fit through the eye of your tapestry needle. So again, not 100% a necessity if you have a crochet hook, not upside down. But it will definitely make your life a lot easier if you do have one. So there is that. So like, yeah, some of these items are maybe not 100% necessary, but they will make your life so much easier when you're knitting and make your knitting process just a lot more fun. So yeah, like I said before, if I've missed anything, let me know in the comments down below. Which is the one craft item, regardless of any craft you do, let me know in the comment what craft it is and what item that you cannot, literally not live without. I think that would be fun to know. And also, let me know what projects you're still working on. I'm currently still working on the 2 leftover from Finish It February. The 2 out of 9 I did not finish. I'm still working on this shawl. I'm slowly making progress. The skein is very small now. I have other skeins at ready. This is Hobby Universe in Pollux, and this is going to be a garter abyss. And when I've gone through 2 skeins of Pollux, maybe 3, yeah. I think 3 skeins of Pollux, I'm going to switch to, and I have my storage box right here so I can show you, that'll be easy, to this guy. Well, this is the wound up version. And this is Nutedans. This is a sock yarn if I'm not mistaken, but this is neon neps in apricots. And all the neon neps, the little colored flecks you see, they light up under UV, which is super fun. But also it's a natural fiber, because it's wool, with a little bit of nylon if I'm not mistaken. And that will allow for me to block the points in, because they won't stay in a synthetic fiber. So annoying. And I've found that out the hard way, sadly. But yeah, well, on the upside, that is one garter abyss I can just hang up to dry and not be bothered with anything. And then there's the sleeves scarf. This will be, damn it, this will be 1 sleeve, and then I will knit the second one and I will sew them together. It will be fine. Yeah, this thing that fell off is a point protector. This is the Clover one for double pointed needles, for circular needles. Not double pointed ones. That would be ridiculous because there are literally 2 points. Each end is pointed DPNs. This is for circular needles. And as you can see, it is hot garbage. Also, I'm not gonna say you don't need point protectors, but if you store your needles well, I think you can go without. And if you're worried about your project sliding off, you can just put an elastic on, even because this is just a hair elastic, like a really tiny one. But you can also just use whatever, a regular elastic. It'll do fine. I've done it before. So yeah, I mean, my project is in a nice knitting bag, so it is protected. So my points, I'm not worried about my points getting damaged at all. Also, points don't get damaged that quickly at all. So like I'm saying, just maybe the needle point protectors, they're really fun and they're cute and they keep your projects from sliding off, but so do elastic bands. So it is not a necessary purchase. Ergo, you've not seen it on here, but the ones just falling off, I felt like I should address them. Pesky things. And that's it for this video. I hope there will be lots of comments so it will become super interactive and also a valuable research for people who find this and see it and want to get knitting or crocheting or just think this is just fun to see what stuff I have. I hope you did too and that you found it useful. And yeah, hit that subscribe button if you want to stick around for more shenanigans in motion and you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so YouTube hopefully actually tells you when I've uploaded a new video. Wouldn't that be grand? I mean, this is YouTube and this is the algorithm. It's plaguing pretty much every small creator. So yeah, I just keep on hoping for the best, to be honest. Can't do much more. And yeah, that's it. There won't be more cats because Kiwi was already the honored guest. I should go and feed her a delicious treat so she's incentivized to come back and, make more appearances. And yeah, that really was it. Thank you for spending your time with me and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!